Hello, it's Alex, the Bookubus. Today I'm bringing you a point horror themed video and I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favourite point horror books. So I am very excited to make this video. It's one I've been wanting to do for ages and I'm finally getting to it. I am going to assume you know what point horror is if you clicked on this video, but just to clarify, point horror was a series of YA horror books that were published in the UK in the 1990s. These titles had previously been published in the US, generally a couple of years previously. And just as an example, this is The Cheerleader. This is a US edition and this was published under Scholastic's Point line. And then this is the UK version of The Cheerleader, which as you can see is published under Point Horror. So the only books that are technically point horror are the ones that came out in this UK published series, but I do know that point horror over recent years has become more of a catch-all term for any and all YA horror from the 90s. But for the purposes of this video, I'm talking point horror, point horror. So there were 71 novels published under the point horror banner, along with 3 anthologies. And I did make a video forever ago. It was actually back in 2018. I had to look it up, which is a long time ago. So yeah, feel free to go check that out. I go through my entire point horror collection in that video if you are curious as to exactly which titles are part of it. I know the Point series in the US had a lot more titles, but we didn't actually get them in the UK. So that's why I'm only talking about this specific number of books. Anyway, point horror was a series of books that I was obsessed with as a kid. It was definitely one of my gateways to horror as a young person, and I have very fond memories of spending my pocket money on point horror books at WH Smith of a weekend and going home and reading them. And I thankfully did keep hold of my books that I had as a kid, and then over recent years I have tracked down the books from the series that I was missing, so I did complete my collection and then made that video in 2018 once I had completed it. And since then I have been reading through all of them. So some of them were rereads for me because I did read them back in the day, but some of them were first time reads for me. And yeah, it's definitely taken me several years, but well worth it. And I overall really enjoyed my time revisiting this nostalgic series. I actually finished reading through the books last year at the end of 2024, but yeah, I'm only just getting a chance to make this video now, but better late than never. It was really hard to narrow down my favourites to just the top 10, but I did it and I'm happy with my choices. And I do actually have an honourable mention before we get into the novels. So the honourable mention is a short story in the first of the anthologies that they released. This is called 13 Tales of Horror. And there is a story by Christopher Pike in here. It is actually a two-parter. It's called Collect Call. And this story, definitely opened my eyes as a younger reader. This definitely felt a lot more dark and dangerous than things I had read before. Like I said, there were 3 anthologies that they brought out and they're not great, I'll be honest, but the Christopher Pike story in this one really does stand out. And I know he does have a large fan base already, but I don't know if this story of his is that well known. So I would still recommend tracking down this anthology, even if it's just for that story. I did reread this more recently and I think it really holds up. It definitely has that edginess and more mature feel than a lot of the other writers that were writing similar stuff at the time. So an honourable mention is Collect Call by Christopher Pike. Okay, now we're getting into the actual top 10 after all that preamble, and I couldn't rank them, that would just be way too difficult. So we're just going in alphabetical order by author name. And first up is The Cheerleader by Caroline B. Cooney, and I just so happen to be wearing my cheerleader t-shirt. Seemed like the right thing to wear for the video. And this one is a vampire novel. It's about a teenage girl who moves to a new school. She's not a popular kid, but she wants to be. She wants to be a cheerleader. And this creepy house that she and her family move into happens to have a very interesting occupant who promises our main character popularity if she does certain things for him. This one's a really unique vampire story. I would definitely recommend it even if you're not typically a vampire fan. And Caroline B. Cooney is definitely one of the more unique writers here. She has a strange quality to her writing style. Everything feels rather unsettling. Highly recommend this one. And that is actually the first book in a trilogy. And the other two books, Return of the Vampire and The Vampire's Promise, are really great too. So I would definitely recommend the whole trilogy. Next up is another Caroline B. Cooney book, and this one is Twins. This is about, twin sisters, and they are identical in looks, but quite different as people, and their parents decide to separate them and send them to different schools many miles apart. After this separation, one of the twins is actually having a great time, living the best life, but the other twin is most definitely not, and she wants what the other twin has. And this is another one that has that off-kilter nature that Caroline B. Cooney's work usually has. It definitely gets a bit bonkers, which I'm always here for, and it's just a thoroughly good time. Next up is Silent Witness by Carol Ellis. And I do enjoy some of the other Carol Ellis books too, but this one's definitely my favourite. This is about a group of teenage friends, and one of them dies, and the rest of the friend group are given a box of his stuff to go through, like things that they might want to keep to remember him by. And our main character is going through this box and finds a mysterious videotape. So she watches it, and the videotape actually shows a crime taking place. But now that she knows something about it, someone is out to get her to stop her from telling. This one's a bit more of a suspenseful, slow burn type story, but I remember really enjoying it, and I just thought it was a great story concept, and one that really stuck with me. And I do like the giallo vibes of this cover with the black leather glove. Next up is Prom Date by Diane Ho. I do enjoy some of her other books too, but this one is my favourite. This is about a group of girls who really want to go to prom, but they don't have dates, and they are really envious of this popular group of girls who, obviously have the coolest dates and the best prom dresses and whatnot. But during the run-up to prom, this group of popular girls starts getting picked off one by one. And we're following, one of the unpopular crowd who is getting caught up in things and is trying to figure out what is going on and who is behind these murders. This one has those slasher vibes, and the prom setting is just always a great one for that kind of story, I think. This one felt pretty dark in tone, and definitely a little more mature than some of the other titles. And it does have quite an unhinged ending as well. So it's a really good one. I would recommend it. Next is The Yearbook by Peter Larangis. Now this is definitely quite a different one for the point horror series. It does stand out to, I think, most people as being a little out there. And this is about a guy who is working on the yearbook crew for the school, and it seems that this year's yearbook has been sabotaged and there are like nasty poems written about people. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, because shortly thereafter, these people who were targeted in the yearbook actually start being targeted in real life, and a dead body turns up. This one's definitely a bit of a wild ride. It is quite humorous as well, and it's just a really fun time. Pretty wild and wacky, and I had a really good time with it, so I hope you do too if you give it a try. Next is The Boy Next Door by Sinclair Smith. This is about a teenage girl who lives not super close to anyone else other than one other house, So she's fairly remote and her parents go away, leaving her home alone, and this mysterious but attractive guy actually moves in to the house next door, which sounds great, but he's actually a bit creepy. So yeah, is he a potential love interest, or is he out to get her in some way? Is she going to survive being home alone until her parents get back? And yeah, this one doesn't have very good ratings overall, so I think I'm an outlier in the fact that I really enjoyed it. This one has an absolutely mad and bonkers climax, and there were lots of like capital letters in the text, and I remember reading it just thinking, what on earth is happening here? But I thought it was an absolute ton of fun. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be very well regarded across the board, but I would recommend it. Next is another Sinclair Smith book. This is Dream Date. This is about a new girl at school. She, doesn't have any friends or boyfriend or anything, and she's very lonely. And one night she has this dream about this handsome guy who is really interested in her. And so she, kind of becomes obsessed with having these dreams. But then in real life, she actually meets an actual cute guy who is interested in her, but the dream guy is mad that she's met an actual guy, and he becomes very controlling and doesn't want to let her escape her dreams and him. And yeah, this one was a really interesting one. It tackles domestic abuse in a really interesting way, and I think it was handled really well, surprisingly enough, for a YA horror book from the 90s. I remember this one being a really gripping read, and a really good one. So another one I would recommend. Next up is Beach House by R.L. Stine. Now, I know R.L. Stine has probably the most books out of any other author in the Point Horror series, but unfortunately his books are kind of my least favourite. Some of them are good, but this is the only one that I think is great, personally. I think his other ones seem to be a bit too juvenile for the age range. They seem to still have that kind of Goosebumps level of storytelling, which is fine, but for this kind of book, I want a little bit more. Anyway, Beach House I think is a really good one. This is definitely one I remember reading when I was younger and was one of my favourites then, and I think it really holds up now too. This one is told over 2 different time periods. We have a section that's in the 1950s and a section in the present day, the 1990s. And I thought that dual timeline was really well done and interesting, and how the story comes together between the 2 storylines was really good without spoiling anything. But anyway, this is about a group of friends who pull a prank on someone, and we all know how that goes in horror stories. That group of friends then get picked off one by one, and then the storyline in the present day is following a different group of friends who find this abandoned beach house and kind of learn about these things that had happened in the past. So this one's a great one. I think it's really solid. Maybe it isn't even one that R.L. Stine wrote. Who knows? Because I know he didn't write all of them. But anyway. Okay, and we're now on to the last 2 books of my top 10, and we have Fatal Secrets by Richie Tankersley Cusick. This is about a girl whose older sister dies, and as she is dealing with this tragedy and kind of trying to get on with her life, she feels like she is being followed and watched. There are these strange things that keep happening, and she starts to think that has her sister, come back to haunt her, or is there something else behind these strange goings on? This one definitely does develop into something that has some more adult, more mature kind of themes within the story without giving any spoilers. So that was interesting to see. I remember this one being another, gripping and entertaining read. There's also a bit of romance here. I know Richie Tankersley Cusick loves to have a love triangle going on in most of her stories. So and the character here, the love interest here, is called Winchester Stone, which has to be one of the best character names ever. And last but not least is Trick or Treat by Richie Tankersley Cusick. This one is about a girl and her family who move into this creepy house, and our protagonist finds out that a girl was murdered in her new bedroom the previous year, and she starts receiving these creepy phone calls and yeah, thinks that the same person is now out to kill her. This one also has the classic Richard Tankersley Cusick love triangle. I won't spoil it, but yeah, one of the love interests is questionable at best. And it also has an unhinged reveal at the end. I really enjoy this one. This is another one that I remember reading as a kid and loving, and it really holds up for me today as well. And even though I didn't rank these books, I actually think this one is probably my very, very favourite point horror book because I really enjoy it, and it also has that really strong nostalgia for me as well. So it's like a double whammy of enjoyability for me. This is definitely one of my favourite covers as well. It's just so good. So that is it. That is my top 10 point horror books. You'll have to let me know if any of these are your favourites too, or if not, which ones are your favourites. I would love to hear about that. If you haven't read any point horror before, then yeah, I would recommend the books that I've just talked about as a good starting point, so you can check them out and see how you like them. That is it for now. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you again in my next video. Bye!